All right, let's look at section 5.2, adding and subtracting decimals. So when we're adding and subtracting decimals, what we want to do is we want to place the numbers to be added or subtracted in a vertical format, and we are going to align the decimal points. So that's the key, aligning those decimal points. And then we just basically add or subtract the numbers as if they were the whole numbers, and then we drop that decimal place down straight down from where it was, and that's going to give us our number when we add and subtract the two decimals or more. Now, when we add decimals with like signs, basically just add the two values together and prefix it with a common sign. So if you add two positives, it's positive. If you add two negatives, it's negative. Now, when you add decimals with unlike signs, basically we're going to subtract the smaller value from the larger and then prefix the sign of the larger number. So if you have a larger positive and you subtract off a negative, then it's going to be a positive. But if you have a larger negative and you subtract off a positive, then the final answer is going to be negative. So let's look at some examples here and kind of follow through with what we've done. So we have 31.9 plus 84.7. So this is usually the format you're going to be given to. So you're going to have to change it to 31.9. Then you want to line up that decimal there. So it's going to be 84.7. And so when we get done, that decimal is going to be there. So if you want to go ahead and drop it down, that's fine. And now we just add these as if it was 319 plus 847 because we've already put our decimal there, so we don't have to worry about it. So 7 and 9, that's going to give us 16, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. So then our answer of 31.9 plus 84.7 is 116.6. Similarly, let's say we take 87.502 because it has the decimal and it's the bigger value, and we're going to add to that 4. Well, it's 4 point, and if you want to, we can always add trailing zeros and it doesn't change the value. That way, when we're adding, we know that there's values there. So let's go ahead and make sure we said we add. So when we add here, we're going to take and bring down our decimal to about right there. And now we just take 2 plus 0 is 2, 0 plus 0 is 0, 5 plus 0 is 5. Our decimal disappeared. Now 7 and 4 is 11, carry 1, 8 and 1, 9. And so then our answer is 91.502. Okay. Now the next one here we have is one where we have opposite signs. So we're going to take the larger one, which in this case happens to be the first one, minus the smaller one. So when we do that, we have 55.672. Then we're going to subtract off 3.3, and we can go ahead and add that 0, 0, so we can kind of keep those placeholders. Now if we bring down our decimal here, now we take 2 minus 0 is 2, 7 minus 0 is 7, 6 minus 3 is 3, 5 minus 3 is 2, and 5 minus 0 is 5. Our larger one was a positive, so we leave it positive, and so that would be our answer. Now let's continue on. So this one is kind of similar to the last one. We have, a larger number is positive, the smaller number is negative, so we're going to take 8.1 minus 2.12. Now notice this time we have more on the second number as far as decimal places than the first one, so we can go ahead and add that 0 there and be fine. Now we notice that that's a 0, so we're going to come clear over here to borrow, so that's the 7. That becomes 10 because we're going to borrow 1 from 11, and so this is 10. So it's 10 minus 2 is 8, 10 minus 1 is 9, our point. 7 minus 2 is 5. It's positive as the larger one, so our answer then is 5.98. All right, so the next one here, we have a negative, and we're adding them. So basically, we're going to add the two as if they're just normal positives, and then our sign of the final answer is going to be negative. So if we take 34.7 plus 56.214, and then if we put our negative sign here already, because we know it's going to be negative, now what we can do is we can go ahead and add those zeros over here to kind of keep the placeholder so we know we line up just right. And we can put our decimal here. And so now we take 0 plus 4 is 4, 0 plus 1 is 1, 7 plus 2 is 9, then 6 plus 4 is 10, carry 1. 5 plus 4 is 9. So our answer is negative 90.914. And again, it's negative because both of these were negative to start with. All right, so now we've got some examples here where we have absolute values, we've got double negatives, all kinds of good fun stuff. So what we're going to do first is kind of simplify. So here we've got a negative 12.05 minus absolute value of, and inside we have 17.83 minus a minus 17.16. So a minus, well, that's going to be plus. So now we just have 17.83 plus 17.16. So let's do that part first. So 17.83 plus 17.16. Go ahead and bring our decimal down. So 6 plus 3 is 9. 8 plus 1 is 9. 7 plus 7 is 14. Carry 1. So that's 3. And so now what we have is a negative 12.05 minus the absolute value of 34.99. Well, the absolute value of 34.99 is just 34.99. So what we really now have is 12.05 minus 34.99. So now we have one number, we're subtracting off another number, and because they're both negative, basically what we're going to do is just add the two together and put our sign as a negative. So we're going to take 12.05 and 34.99. We're going to add those two together, and we know our answer is going to be negative. So if we put our decimal there, 5 plus 9, that's going to give us 14. 9 plus 1 is 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4. And so our answer then is going to be negative 47.04. Okay. And so what we did, we just kind of followed order of operations in this case. We had to do what's inside of the absolute values first, and then that caused us to, a negative is positive. Once we solved that, then we took the absolute value of it, and then after that, we just added the two numbers together. Now here we're going to do the same thing, but now we don't have absolute values, we just have parentheses. So we're going to do things what's inside parentheses first. So again, we have negative, so that becomes positive. So we're going to take that plus that. So 1.51 plus 17.35. So 5 and 1 is 6. 5 and 3 is 8. 7 and 1 is 8 and 1. So we have 18.86 there, so that's going to be a negative 19.1 minus 18.86. Well, here we have a negative, so it ends up being the same as here because after we drop the absolute values, we had the negative here. So we just add those two together and our final answer is going to be negative. So we have 19.1 and 18.86. We're going to add them together. Let's go ahead and add that 0 there, put our decimal here, and we know our final answer is negative because both of these are negative. So 6 plus 0 is 6, 8 plus 1, 9, 9 plus 8, 17, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, and so that gives us a final answer of negative 37.96. Now the key difference was here we didn't have to take absolute value, we just had to take the sum of what's inside there and just bring it on down. All right, so a couple application problems. So the first one says the average temperatures in Sacramento, California in July are a high of 93.8 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 60.9 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the change in temperature? So we're going to take the latter minus the former, and the latter being the second one they give us, and so that's this one. The first one they give us is this one. So if we do that, that's going to be 60.9 minus 93.8. Now, if we remember from our directions, if we have to do subtraction, we take the larger minus the smaller and then make the sign of the answer whatever the larger is. Well, the larger is negative. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take 93.8 minus 60.9. And when we get done, our final answer is going to be negative. All right, so 8's smaller, so let's borrow one here. That's a 2, so now we have 18. So that's going to be 0.9, and 2 minus 0 is 2. 9 minus 6 is going to give us 3. So what is the temperature change? It's going to be a negative 32.9 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going from like the daytime high, and then at night it's dropping to 60.9. So since it dropped, it's going to lose temperature, and hence the negative sign. And so we lost 32.9 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so the next one says employers hired 4.08 million people in January 2010, while 4.12 million were fired or left their job. How many more people lost their job than were hired? All right, well, our larger number is 4.12 million. So 4.12, okay, so we're going to take that number minus the 4.08. And so if we do that, that's going to be 4.12 minus 4.08. Bring down our decimal. So I have to borrow one here. That's 0. Now we have 12 minus 8 is 4. 0 minus 0 is 0. And that's 0. So we have 0.04 million people lost their job than were hired. But they want us to put it in a whole number. Well, if we remember, a million is equal to 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so if we take that number times the 0.04, or basically, if we just move the decimal 6 places to the right, we should have our number. So if we start with this, and we're going to move it to the right, so let's add a whole bunch of zeros here. We're going to move it 6 places. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now our decimal's here, and this is going to be our answer. So 4 and then 4 zeros. So that's going to be 40,000. Okay, so that's going to be how many people were fired or left their job more than they were actually hired in January of 2010. All right, so that's all I have for this. I'll have another video with some more examples in a little bit.